Thanks, Grace. So, 10 years ago, 2006, I was listening to a podcast from the Java Posse. I don't know if some of you knows that. It's a Java podcast a long time ago. And they were talking about a continuous integration server. At that time, I didn't really know what that is. So I downloaded Hudson. At that time, it was called Hudson. Downloaded it. Thought it's great, tried it out, installed it, pointed it to my CVS repository at that time, showed it my aunt script, and thought, okay, let's try it out. So, and all of a sudden, I got a notification from Hudson that my test broke. And I thought, wow, just automatically, I didn't do anything. That is great. This is really the beginning of the rise of the machine. So, fast forward 10 years now, in where are we with continuous integration, continuous delivery? Well, so we are there. I think continuous integration has arrived. Everyone is doing that. I hope everyone is doing that. So, but it's still like that. You have code on the other side and builds on the other side. So this separation. But you just heard in the keynote from Jens that we introduced Bitbucket pipelines, which brings code and builds together. On the same platform. So you can do all these things, branches, code reviews, builds, deployments, in just one tool with Bitbucket pipelines. And in the good old days, we had this, that the build configuration is sitting in the build tool, and the build file or the POM file, whatever you use, is in your code. And with Bitbucket pipelines, we're combining this. So we have actually what we called configuration as a pipeline as code. So let me just introduce a little bit to you what you can do there. You can have different branch types in Bitbucket pipelines. You can have different images you're building on. And you can you can configure different steps in Bitbucket pipelines. So a Bitbucket pipeline configuration file, the YAML file, looks like this. So you can see you can have your different branch types. You can have different configuration. Maybe you don't want to have a deployment directly from your feature branch. You just want it from the master branch, so that makes sense. You can configure different Docker images. So we're building it in Docker, and you can configure different Docker images. And we will add steps, so you can configure different steps in your YAML file. If you want to find more about Bitbucket pipelines, come to Peter's talk tomorrow, A Tale of Continuous Delivery. But 10 years ago, we started with continuous integration. We added continuous delivery. And when we think about automation, we think about these deployments, builds and tests, small scripts that maybe run on your servers. But this is actually just the tip of the iceberg. Automation, you can automate much more in software development than just this. You can automate your engineering health, your support, your stand-ups, your code reviews, your ops. So I've been talking to a lot of people, and I put together some bots that I found here and there and put it together in this talk. So I would talk about coding bots, test bots, ops bots, service bots, and report bots in just half an hour. But the first bot I actually found, I couldn't fit in these categories. So imagine you start a new job at a new organization. And you come to your job, and the first day goes always like you go around and you meet a lot of people, and they tell you a lot of stuff, tell you about the system you're going to work on. And after 2 hours, 3 hours, you think your head's going to explode because so much information. So you're happy after 3 hours to go back to your desk, and you find your brand new computer. Say, welcome. And then what you're doing, you install all these things that you need for your development work. Your IDE, or your JDK. But do you know actually which IDE you use at the new job, or just which JDK you use at that job? Well, what we do at Atlassian, we have this configuration. We have this Confluence page where we say, okay, this is how you set up a new dev environment at Atlassian. And it tells you something like this. Here, install all these tools and set up your Bitbucket account. Then it goes on, configure Maven. And if you're configured Maven, you start with starting Maven and let Maven download the internet for you. And we all know that we work with Maven. That takes time. So in between, you can do a lot of other stuff like installing a database, installing your IDE. And then you come back and say, if you're still waiting for Maven, you can read this blog post to find out more. But hey, the first comment, or the second comment actually on this page is, why are you not using Agent Charlie to automate a whole bunch of this stuff? So we wrote this, Meet Agent Charlie. So what Agent Charlie does, you go to this page, download a small script, and Agent Charlie actually installs, configures, and downloads all the software tools that you need for your development work automatically. And we wrote it ourselves, so our Agent Charlie is built of some Puppet, Shell, and Ruby scripts, and it's installing automatically all these things and much, much more. So instead of taking the whole day installing a lot of tools, you can just start Agent Charlie and go to your new coworkers and find out what you have to develop, what's next. All right, so let's go and talk about coding bots. And we're doing a whole bunch of stuff to have this little workflow helper. So you know our coding workflow goes like you create a feature branch, you make a pull request, and then you merge the code. So let's assume you have this cool new developer that don't follow that rule, that just commits directly to the master branch. And then, hey, makes a mistake, okay, the build gets read, shouldn't do, but hey, this cool developer is so cool that just change the code, makes it green again. Okay, everything's fine. But is it? Well, at the same time, there's another dev. Doing actually the proper way, creating a feature branch, and then change some code and let the build run on the feature branch. And then, all of a sudden, bang, build is red. And you have to spend a lot of time to find out why your build is red, because, hey, you haven't broken it, and you can't find out why this test all of a sudden fails, and then you find out, it happened already when I branched it. So bad surprise. But bad surprise, I mean, that happens, shit happens. But we can do better. So let's use a bot for that and don't have bad surprises. So we have this Git hook that you are not allowed to branch from a red build. So if there's a red build on the master branch, we're checking it when you do a branch. What's the build status of the master branch? So you cannot create the branch. So don't branch from a red build. That is our first little workflow helper. So who should review your code? Who's the best person? So I always invite my friends and my coworkers because they are nice to me. They say, Sven, good code, great, approved, do the pull request. But these are probably not the best people, actually. So if you really want to find out who's the best people to review your code, you have to look up in the commit history. So you look up in the commit history, all these people here, these probably the best people to review your code because they have worked with that code. They have changed it. They may be the author of that code. So you can look through it. But hey, this is talk about automation and bots. So let's have a bot do that for us. So and we have this free add-on for Bitbucket Server. It's called Auto-Suggest Reviewers. And it suggests reviewers based on who committed last time to that file or who is the original author of that file. And you can just pick them and use them as reviewers. OK, so always invite the right reviewers, another little small workflow helper that we have. And then as we grow at Atlassian, we are waiting for approvals of pull requests. And we have this rule that, OK, maybe in some teams you need 2 approvals, and then you're good to go. So you invite maybe 5 reviewers, and if 2 people approve it, we're good to go. The author is allowed to merge the code back to the master branch. So we have this little Git hook installed that it allows us to have a minimum amount of approvers, and then we're allowed to merge back. So this is also a little bit control and a little small workflow helper. All right, this is about coding bots. Let's jump right into test bots and do a smarter test automation. So we are developers. We are engineers. And we're trying hard to write beautiful code. And as developers, you know that feeling when you have created this great code design, and you're so proud of it. You have these interfaces and abstract class, and it's so beautiful. And you're so proud of that, and you think, let me look at that code again. Wow, this is so smart. I was so smart writing that code. Wow, that's so cool. Just 32 lines of code, and everything's in it. Cool, great. And then you go on vacation. And then you come back 1 month later and look at your awesome, beautiful code. And all of a sudden, you think, what the hell has happened to my beautiful code? Because other people thought also, this is great. This is a great class. So I integrate all my work into that one. And believe me, I've been working in a lot of projects, for a lot of companies, and these things happen. Code quality decreases over time. So maybe your deprecated methods goes up, your test coverage goes down. It happens to all code bases that I've been working on. You have this beautiful design in the beginning, and then not so beautiful anymore after 1 or 2 years. But developers, they don't write bad code on purpose. We're not just saying, hey, let's mess this awesome class up. We're not doing that. So why is it happening? I think it's happening because developers are trying to solve problems. So they look at their problem, integrate the functionality into your class, and then they move on and say, OK, everything is working. But you have to look at your engineering health all the time. So you can have one guy sitting there and measure your engineering health and look at the code. Of course, you don't want to have a human. You want to have a bot doing that for you, so checking that automatically. And we started with that when we were moving from JUnit 3 to JUnit 4. So we said, OK, good. We cannot maybe migrate all the tests to JUnit 4. So we are actually saying, OK, we are not allowed to have any more JUnit 3 tests in the code base. Not more. So we don't want to add more JUnit 3 tests. So Philip from the Gdansk office, he wrote this small class that checks how many JUnit 3 tests there are, and then compares the value to a database and says, OK, you broke just the metrics here. And people found that so great that this is not the only thing we're checking. So they added a bunch of more checks about our engineering health. So we are actually trying to measure the engineering health and say, oh, you just broke it. But instead of just telling you, oh, you just broke the engineering health, go back and fix that, we wanted to have a little bit more social pressure. So if you break the engineering health, if you got caught by Dr. Code, you enter the hall of shame. Shame on you. And it's not just like, OK, you enter the hall of shame. We call you out here. We show you a picture and say, hey, shame on you. OK, that's maybe a cultural thing at Atlassian, so maybe that doesn't work for every company. But we think it's fun, so we show that on big wallboards, everyone that broke the engineering health there. But you can also, if you fix something, you have also the possibility to enter the Hall of Fame, of course. So as developers, we are good at writing code, but more we do is read code. And we can actually skim just through code, so we can read that code here, and I mean, you can tell me the difference right away. Yeah, there's a magic number. Great, you all have catched that. OK, so engineers, we're developers, we can see that. What about user interfaces? What's the difference here? Actually, OK, maybe it's a little bit small, but here the icon is a little bit different, but it's very hard to spot for us. Our eyes are not trained for that. But actually, designer can see stuff like that. They tell you, this line is 2 pixels off. And you say, what? How can you see that? It's amazing. OK. So instead of hiring more designers, actually, to look at what we just did, or what we just, the user interface that we just produced, we have an image compare board that just looks an image in the database and compares it pixel by pixel, and tells you actually, alerts you on differences. So if there's some differences, it tells you, OK, there's a difference here. I have some easy reporting, so you can see immediately there's a difference here, and you can fix that immediately. But we're not just checking images. Of course, we are also running our unit tests automatically, and if the build is green, we are happy developers. We say, yeah, good. But what happens if the build is red? Well, we think, OK, We're not unhappy, but because things happen, that's why we have this check here, this continuous integration server checking all the time the code. But we have to look at it and try to fix the bug that we introduced. So, but what happens if you can't find actually why the build failed? What are you doing? So you look, I can't see why the build failed. So what are you doing? You rerun the build. So you press again, build, rerun, and then the build is green. Boom. That's a frustrating moment, actually, because you just discovered a flaky test. So flaky tests or flaky code underneath it, that's not a good thing. And and you spend a lot of time for it to discover these. So we wrote a flaky test detector that tells you this test is flaky. How does that work? So it's pretty easy. If the build fails, or the test fails, we rerun the test. And if the test is green, we know, OK, we have just discovered a flaky test. So we set we continue the build, and actually we put the test in quarantine. So the test is not executed anymore the next time we run the build. But also we're raising automatically, we create a Jira issue, so people have to look at that and fix that later, or delete the test if the test is flaky, or fix the code underneath if the code is flaky. And we did that, and in 1.5 years, the Confluence team actually found 817 flaky tests and put them in quarantine. Imagine how much engineering time you actually saved by that, by just having this flaky test detector, instead of looking why the build failed and rerun it and say, oh, I just discovered a flaky test. All right. Let's take a look a little bit at ops bots. Because, I mean, we know the time is over, that we just give our software to the ops guys and say, hey, bye. It's an ops problem now. We know we're not doing that anymore. It's the age of DevOps, so we work together with the ops guys, of course. But I still think there's even though we work closely together with the ops guys, there's a pretty slow feedback loop. So if a problem occurs on your server, you just say, OK, good, the ops guy is going to be called. They look at it. Maybe they restart the servers, cannot find anything, calls the devs goes, and maybe they change the code and say, OK, here's the new one, and then everything works again. That's a very, very slow feedback loop. We can do better. So just remove the ops guys in between and say, if the problem occurs, we call the right team that is responsible for that service, and then they can look at it, change the code, and redeploy the service. And we are using PagerDuty for that. So PagerDuty actually continues to some different services, Nagios. And the thing is, PagerDuty knows whose team is responsible in the configuration, whose team is responsible for which service. So it always informs the right dev, can inform the right dev team to look at things. Now, this is not the bot I want to talk about. Because the downside is, in the age of microservices, you deploy maybe a new microservice each day or each week. There's a lot of configuration. You always have to think, OK, this service belongs to that team. But we can do better. So actually, you can mention the team in the deployment descriptor. And you just deploy your new service. You mention your team in the deployment descriptor. There's a bot looking at it and changing the configuration of PagerDuty automatically. So PagerDuty knows which team is responsible for which service. And actually, that way, you own your code end to end. This is what we want. We're responsible for our code that we write. So we want to own our code end to end, and PagerDuty and this bot helps us with that. Delivery is getting faster and faster and faster. I mean, look at Amazon. They have shipped maybe, I took 3 days for a package to arrive, and then now I can have it next day delivery, or actually the same day delivery. How do they do that? Well, they also experimented with automating, so sending on some drones with a package. So, and we already have figured that out in software development. I mean, our delivery is pretty fast, so we can deliver code automatically. Continuous delivery is a thing. So code, great. We have automated that. It's delivered automatically. But what about the release notes? yeah, okay, we have to write the release notes. And it's actually a problem if you deliver on a daily basis, change your code on a daily basis and push that, or even hourly basis. What did change? So what you could do is, of course, first you have to know what you really ship. So you can look at your commit history before you ship, and then look at the issue keys that you probably have mentioned in your commits. And then say, OK, these features are shipped. But OK, we can use a bot for that, a release notes bot, and then just take the commit message or the commit issues, get that out, and then take the issue description and create the release notes automatically based on that. So I've been talking to some companies, and actually Zero Turnaround is doing that with Bitbucket and Jira. So they actually create their release notes automatically based on that, and they use the issue types also to categorize their release notes, so they can have new features, improvements, and fix bugs in there. And it's not just like you don't have surprises all of a sudden what you release, or you know what you release and it's created automatically. It has also some more advantages. It has also the advantage that you care about what's in your issue description. So you think about human-readable issue descriptions. When you write your issue description, you think about, OK, the customer will read that. And also, you think about, OK, is that really important for the customer? You think about the value that you deliver to the customer. So this is what you do when you automate your release notes. Next thing is service bots, so automate your support or your service. So if the support at Atlassian, the support get asked, hey, can you look at that? We have this problem. And then we say, OK, can you please send us your log file? And the support looks at the log file, cannot really find something in there, so it reaches out to the developers. And we are good at reading log files. We can see that. We say, OK, we know everything. OK, this null pointer exception, I know. Oh, what's with that exception here? Well, OK, this can have, we combine that with our system noise. This can have that impact. So we pretty much solve then the problem, go back to the support, and tell them this might be the problem. Great. It's OK. But it has a downside because it pauses our work as developers. And then we have to go back and come back and start there again where we stopped. That's not good. OK, this is a talk about bots, so you may think, OK, good. Let's replace this developer with a bot. We call that bot Hercules. And Hercules is actually that smart. It can scan the log files, look at that, and then combine this with system knowledge. So on this Confluence pages here, we have actually this machine-readable part on top of it. So Hercules can read that. It's a reg expression, look at the log file, and say, OK, this could be the solution. So I see that problem in the log file, so this could be the solution for that problem, and suggest that to the support people. And we're improving it constantly. So we say, OK, Hercules, that was not really a good catch that you have. So we're improving that constantly, so Hercules gets smarter and smarter over time. And we're also trying out to give this feature directly to our customers, to the people that ask for support. So upload their file, and Hercules scans it automatically. And there was a comment, actually, when we tried it out with 1-2 customers. There was the first comment here. Well, fuck me, the robot was right. I increased the memory available to Confluence Jira, and things worked. Wow. And we thought it's so cool that of course, we're a T-shirt company, so we created this T-shirt, and people that developed Hercules are wearing that with pride. Well, fuck me, the robot was right. Thank you. All right, let's switch over to report bots, because manual reporting sucks. Let's automate the stand-ups. We might say, Sven, are you crazy automating stand-ups? Stand-ups is all about human interaction. Yeah, but stand-ups has some down things. They always take too long. So there are some problems. So people are talking and talking and talking. Then we have this, that we have to remind people, hey, there's a stand-up happening like every day, so come. You have to grab them in the kitchen. Or you have to VC calls. So people are working remotely. You have to set up the VC calls that always takes time, or people work in different time zones. And it's hard to find a good overlap for stand-up. These are real problems with stand-ups. So let's fix the first problem, that stand-up takes too long. And that's actually the only physical bot I have, and it's Stand-Up Buddy. And we did it ourselves. So this Stand-Up Buddy vibrates after time. And then you have to hand it over, and your time is gone. So and you press a knot on top of it, and then it starts the timer again. And so people are not taking too long for the stand-ups. That's Stand-Up Buddy for making sure your stand-up stays in time. So let's solve another problem here, that people are missing the stand-up. So people are not coming to stand-ups. So a developer at Atlassian has wrote this Chrome extension called Chrome tab, and you can set it to a certain time, and then point it to your URL, so it opens a tab in Chrome and goes to this URL. And we connected it to a music streaming service, so it starts a music streaming service and starts playing music 1 minute before the stand-up. So if you hear AC/DC playing, you know, hey, I'm on a highway to hell, so I'm going to my dev team stand-up. And if you hear maybe Taylor Swift playing, you know, okay, it's the marketing team stand-up. All right, we use the same technology actually for setting up VC calls. So if people are working remote, it's always the same URL and starting it automatically. So there's no time actually for setting up VC calls. All right, so these bots are great for co-located teams. If you're in the same building, hearing music. It's good for distributed teams, so starting automatically the VC call. But what about different time zones? Sometimes you have the problem that your team is distributed all over the world. So what can you do? So we have this small thing that you can tell the bot what you've been doing. So you put your status update, tell the bot, and then if people wakes up on the other side of the world, they can actually ask that bot, so what has the team been doing, the distributed team? And it tells you what they have been doing. So we integrated that into HipChat, and that's our small stand-up bot, so you can ask the stand-up bot, hey, or tell the stand-up bot, this is what I did yesterday, and then if people on the other side of the world wakes up, they can actually ask, so what has the team been doing? So /stand-up, and then you can see all the things here, what the team has been doing. Helps us. All right. So I've been talking about coding bots, test bots, ops bots, service bots, so report bots. So bots are actually everywhere. Not just continuous integration, continuous delivery. We can automate much more than that. But said that is the number one problem that people have actually is this. We never find time to automating stuff. We never have time for that. We're hunting our sprint goals. So we're carrying a lot of technical debt with us, the Jira team. So our engineers said, okay, good, you are allowed to spend 10% of your sprint time to fix some engineering, to work on engineering health. But one guy in the Gdansk office, Philip here, he actually wrote this Dr. code, this automatically measuring the engineering health. So you got called out and you use the rest 90% of the time all of a sudden so he used the 10% time to write that, and then the rest of the team is using the rest 90% of the time to fix the engineering health metrics, so it's getting automatically. So that's pretty cool. What we also do, we're trying around with stuff. We're using our ship it days for that, to be smarter in making more automation in software development. And so the thing is, I've been talking to a lot of people inside, outside Atlassian, and they all said, treat your bots well. So not only, so add them to source control. Add all your automation code, put that also in source. Treat it as your production code, very important. Do code reviews for every change. So if you have a change, make a code review so you spread the automation knowledge. Write tests. If someone else changes your bot or your automation code, have tests in place that make sure that everything works. And also very important, have deployment scripts. People don't know where they should put these small scripts on which servers. They don't have maybe the server credentials, stuff like that. Have deployment scripts to automate that. At the end, when we talk about automation, is building software is really a craft. And like every craftsmanship, we can automate stuff. So we can do some automation here. But creating really customer value, I don't think bots will take over there. Creating customer value is really an art, and this is really, really hard to automate. So race of the machines, yes, but I don't think the bots will take over. But I have a last warning for you here. Don't mess with bots. So treat your bots, as I said, treat your bots well. They have feelings too, you know. Don't do that with your bots. That's really, really bad. Don't do that. Oh my God, that's so, because you know, we all know what happens if we don't treat our bots well. Skynet will take over, the race of the machines is coming, so treat your bots well and automate your software development. Thank you very much.